My name is Mia, I'm 33 years old, and I'm the kind of woman people look at and assume she must have her life together. For a long time I thought so too. I had a stable marriage, a quiet home, and a husband, Anderson, who genuinely cared about me. He wasn't dramatic, he wasn't flashy, he didn't make grand romantic gestures, but he was steady, dependable, the kind of man other women would proudly brag about. And I threw all of that away for someone who shouldn't have meant anything. I never wanted to be the villain of my own life. I never thought I'd be the type of wife who betrayed the man who trusted her the most. But loneliness can twist your thinking, and selfishness can rot your judgment. And when both mix together long enough, you start convincing yourself of things you'd never believe in the daylight. That's how it happened with James. James was older, 49, charismatic in a way that made you feel seen even if you didn't want to be. He was a business partner at a company we worked closely with. The first time I met him, he shook my hand firmly, looked me in the eyes, and actually listened to what I said. I didn't realize how long it had been since someone did that. Anderson loved me, I have no doubt, but the comfort of routine had turned into something colder, heavier. We barely talked. We barely laughed. We barely touched. With James, it felt like waking up after a long sleep. Compliments I didn't hear at home anymore. Attention I had been craving. It started as emotional, then subtle flirting, then lunches, then long messages, and eventually, the line blurred beyond recognition. And then I crossed it. The first time I went to James's house, I told myself it was a mistake. The second time, I told myself it was temporary. By the fourth or fifth time, I wasn't telling myself anything, I was just avoiding the truth. I thought I was careful. I thought no one would ever know. I thought Anderson would never suspect a thing because he trusted me too much to even imagine something like this. I was wrong. The day everything cracked open, I remember exactly what I was wearing, how the air smelled, every little detail. I had taken off work early, telling Anderson I was swamped with monthly reports. Instead, I was at James's house, wrapped in his sheets, pretending the outside world didn't exist. When the clock hit late afternoon, I panicked. Anderson and I had talked earlier, and he thought I was at the office. I rushed to get dressed, fixing my hair, wiping my face, trying to erase any sign of what I had just done. As I backed out of James's driveway, my heart was hammering. Guilt is a strange thing. It doesn't hit you during the act, but the second you step outside, it slams you in the chest. I told myself I'd go home, shower, pretend I had a long day at work, and act normal. I'd done it before. Then my phone rang. Anderson. My fingers shook as I picked up. He sounded normal, too normal. He asked what I was doing, and instead of telling him something simple, my brain scrambled and I over-explained. I told him I was just running errands. My voice was shaky, breathless. I could hear it myself. I could hear how suspicious it sounded. Then he said something that made my entire body freeze. I'm heading home early. I finished work sooner than I expected. My heart dropped straight into my stomach. Every lie I had stacked up over the past few weeks felt like it was about to burst open. I tried to act casual and told him I was driving toward the store near our house. But right after hanging up, something even worse happened. I saw his car in my rearview mirror. I blinked, thinking I was imagining it, but no, he was behind me on the same stretch of road. I felt my throat close up. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near this area. I knew he was early, but I didn't think he'd be this early. And definitely not on this road miles away from home. Panic took over. Suddenly, he said on the phone, I just passed the rest area. The rest area was literally behind me. That's when I slammed the gas pedal. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I just sped as if my life depended on it. My pulse was loud in my ears. My hands were slippery on the wheel. I kept rehearsing excuses, trying to figure out what he saw. Did he recognize my car? Did he follow me? Was he testing me? I could feel the truth circling me like a predator. I knew he suspected something. Maybe not the whole truth, but enough. By the time I reached the store parking lot, I was shaking. I parked crooked, stepped out, fixed my shirt, checked my face in the reflection of the car window, and force myself to breathe normally. When Anderson pulled in moments later, my heart almost stopped. He got out of the car slowly, watching me with this look I couldn't read. Inside, he asked small, pointed questions. Where had I been? What had I done today? Which store was I headed to? Each lie I told felt heavier than the last. When I went to the restroom, I didn't use it. I just stood at the sink, running the water to cover the sound of my shaking breath.
I was terrified he could smell James on me.
Terrified he could see guilt on my face like a stain. When we got home, he asked again about my day, and I lied again, saying work had been busy. He stared at me a second longer than usual. I felt exposed.
Raw.
Like he could see straight through me. That night in bed, he slept stiff and silent. I stared at the ceiling, wishing I could rewind everything. Wishing I could stop myself from going down this road. But it was too late, and I knew it. Something had shifted in Anderson. The trust he had in me, unshakable, blind trust, had cracked. But I still convinced myself he didn't know anything for sure. And then he started watching me differently over the next week. Not obviously, not angrily. Just quietly. Observing. Asking subtle questions. Checking in at different times. And every time he did, guilt stabbed me like a needle. But I kept lying, kept pretending, kept meeting James, kept falling further into the mess I'd created. The day I told Anderson I had to work late, I felt that same flicker of panic in my chest. Something about his tone over the phone made my skin prickle. He sounded calm, too calm. I told him I'd be home a few hours later. Instead, I drove straight to James's house again. Every moment with James was like a temporary escape. Warm hands, flattering words, the rush of feeling desired. But deep inside, I knew that every time I walked through that door, I was stepping further out of my marriage. At around 4:45 p.m., I heard a car outside. I froze. My stomach flipped. James checked through the blinds and shrugged. It was just someone driving by. But something felt off. I stayed until the sky started dimming, and I forced myself to leave before Anderson started to worry. I had no idea that during that time, Anderson was driving around, searching, looking for answers I'd been hiding so desperately. When I finally got home that night, I brought him his favorite Chinese takeout, trying to earn some points, trying to erase whatever suspicions he had. I kissed him, and he turned his face slightly. It felt like a knife straight to my chest. Still, I pretended everything was normal. I didn't know, at least not yet, that earlier that day, he had found my car in James's driveway. Not once, but twice. I didn't know he had taken pictures. I didn't know he was planning his escape. I didn't know I had already ruined everything, long before the final blow came. But I was about to find out. The next day, Anderson acted unusually gentle. Too gentle. He kissed my forehead before leaving for work, something he hadn't done in months. He even texted me a couple of times, asking how my day was going. I should have known right then that something wasn't right, that something was coming. But instead, I convinced myself that maybe he was trying. Maybe he sensed the distance between us and wanted to reconnect. I didn't know he had already seen everything he needed to see. I didn't know he had already planned exactly how he would walk out of my life. That afternoon, he told me he had to leave early the next morning for customer site. I remember feeling this awful twist in my stomach because when he gave me details, vague details, my mind immediately jumped to James.
To time.
To opportunity. I didn't want to admit it even to myself, but I was calculating. Planning. If Anderson wasn't home, I could see James again. I didn't know this would be the last selfish thought I'd ever have as a married woman. When he mentioned leaving early and getting home late, I tried to sound casual, nodding and asking small questions. Deep down, I felt relieved. I told myself I'd use the day to think about what I really wanted in life. But the truth was, I already knew what I was choosing every time I walked into James's house. The next morning, Anderson left early, and the second he pulled out of the driveway, I felt this hollow ache inside me. Not guilt, not sadness, just empty. I went about my routine mechanically, shower, makeup, coffee. I called in to work saying I was taking the day to finish a project from home. Another lie. My whole life had become lies stacked over more lies. And yet, something felt different. It was like a pressure was building inside my chest that I couldn't explain. By the afternoon, I found myself driving toward James's street again. My hands were cold on the steering wheel, my heartbeat too loud. The entire drive, I kept telling myself I shouldn't go, that I should turn around, that I should text Anderson and tell him I missed him and wanted to work things out. But I didn't. I kept driving all the way to that familiar house with a Ram pickup in the driveway. James greeted me at the door like always, smirking, confident, hands all over me. I tried to smile back, but something inside me felt wrong, off, misaligned. I couldn't shake it. Even in his arms, I was distracted, anxious, checking my phone, flinching at every sound.
He noticed.
"What's going on with you today?" he asked, brushing my hair behind my ear. "Nothing," I lied, forcing a smile. "Just tired."
But I could tell he didn't believe me.
And honestly, I didn't believe me either. I stayed for a couple of hours, physically present, mentally on edge. When I finally got dressed to leave, James kissed me goodbye like always, and for the first time, I didn't kiss him back fully. I felt sick. Something was off, something was wrong. The air around me felt heavy, like it was warning me. I didn't know that while I was inside, Anderson had already driven past James's house again. He had already seen my car parked there. He had already taken more photos. He had already packed his suitcase. He had already checked into a hotel. He had already decided he was done. By the time I drove home, the sun was setting and my chest felt tight. I walked inside, rehearsing some fake explanation about spreadsheets and meetings and overtime. I was ready to lie. I was ready to act like nothing was out of the ordinary. Then my phone rang. It was Anderson. He never called me when he was supposedly at a customer site. He always texted. That alone sent a chill down my spine. I picked up, trying to sound normal. "Hey babe," I said, overly cheerful. "Everything okay?" His voice was flat.
Dead.
I'd never heard him like that. "What are you doing?" I froze. My mind scrambled. I'm working on the monthly close. I'm in a conference room." There was a pause. A long, heavy pause. The kind that suffocates you. Then he said it. "You're lying." My throat closed.
What?
"Anderson, what are you talking? I know where you are. I know who you're with. And I know exactly what you're doing." My entire body went cold. My knees buckled. My hand shook so hard my phone nearly fell. "And just so we're clear," he continued, voice cutting like ice, "you're either screwing him right now or you just finished screwing him." I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even think. "And I'm done with you," he said quietly. "I won't be home when you get there." Then he hung up. I stood there in my kitchen, phone in my shaking hand, unable to process anything. It was like someone had reached inside my chest and crushed my lungs. The silence in the room felt impossibly loud. For 20 minutes, I did nothing. My brain couldn't catch up. My heart felt like it was beating out of my ribs. My mouth went dry. I stared at the floor thinking, how much does he know? What did he see? When did he see it? How long has he known? When the shock wore off, panic took over. I called him. No answer. I texted him. No reply. I called again and again, my fingers trembling, my voice breaking, my words spilling out too fast. "It's not what you think. Please talk to me. Please pick up. I'm begging you. We can fix this. Just come home. I love you. Please, please, please." Nothing. So I tried again. And again. And again. That entire night, I left message after message. Some calm, some hysterical, some angry at myself, some full of apologies, most of them incoherent. I cried until my voice was gone. My body shook uncontrollably. I kept pacing the house, waiting for the front door to open, praying he'd walk in and scream or yell or throw something. Anything would have been better than silence. He never came. At around midnight, I realized something that shattered me all over again. He knew.
He wasn't guessing.
He wasn't imagining. He wasn't suspicious. He knew. The next morning, I found out he had told both our families. He told them everything, every detail, every suspicion, every proof he had gathered.
My mom called me sobbing.
Anderson's mother called me furious. His dad didn't say anything, just heavy breathing and disappointment. My sister tried to calm me down, but she was crying too. No one had my side anymore. Not even me. By noon, I was nauseous, dizzy, shaking. I hadn't eaten. I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't stop replaying his voice, cold, firm, final. I'm done with you. I knew what that meant. He wasn't coming back. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. Maybe not ever. And yet, I couldn't accept it. I kept calling, kept texting, kept begging. I sent long paragraphs at first, then short messages, then voice notes full of sobbing, gasping breaths. But he didn't answer a single one. When his silence continued into the next day, something inside me snapped. I couldn't handle it. I could barely stand. I felt like I was dissolving from the inside. I kept thinking about how badly I had ruined everything. How selfish I'd been. How stupid. How reckless. Anderson wasn't just my husband. He was the one person who had always believed in me. The one person I could rely on. And I had betrayed him in the cruelest way possible. By the third day, my friends started calling. Some yelled at me. Some told me I was an idiot. Some tried to defend me weakly.
But none of it mattered.
Nothing mattered except Anderson's silence. That silence was killing me. And then something else happened that pushed me into a place I never thought I'd be. Anderson's sister called me. And she said things that broke me in a way I didn't know was possible. But that's where the next part begins. The morning after Anderson's sister called me, I woke up on the living room floor with my phone still in my hand and my eyes swollen so badly I could barely open them. I hadn't slept. I hadn't eaten. I hadn't even moved much. I just kept calling him until my voice was barely a whisper. His sister's words were still echoing in my head.
He's done with you, Mia.
He said he'll never see you again. You broke him. Hearing that from her, someone who used to call me her bonus sister, crushed something deep inside me. I had imagined anger from his family, disappointment, maybe even hateful messages. But hearing the absolute finality in her voice, the certainty that Anderson was never going to speak to me again, sent me spiraling harder than anything else had. I kept replaying the moment he said, "I'm done with you." The tone, the cold clarity, the restraint in his voice.
He didn't yell.
He didn't curse. He didn't fight. He just shut the door. Quietly.
Completely.
And somehow that hurt more than if he had screamed at me. At around 3 p.m. that day, my phone buzzed again. I scrambled to check it, praying it was him, but it was his mother. For a second, I didn't want to answer. I didn't think I could handle more disappointment, more disgust, more reminders of what I destroyed. But something in me forced my hand. When I picked up, she didn't yell. She didn't insult me. Her voice was cold, so cold it felt like winter air blowing through my chest. "Mia," she said. "What were you thinking?" My mouth opened, but nothing came out. I didn't know how to explain something I couldn't even understand myself. "I trusted you," she continued. "We all did. And you threw away 8 years for what? A fling with a client." Hearing her say it aloud made it burn even worse. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry. I don't know why I—" "You don't get to not know," she snapped. "You had a husband who loved you. A good man." I cried harder. I didn't have any defense. I didn't have any excuse. All I had were regrets and 1,000 shattered pieces of myself. She sighed, exhausted. "If you care about him at all, leave him alone. Let him heal. Let him go." The call ended before I could respond. I curled into a ball on the couch, clutching my chest like I was trying to keep myself from falling apart. The pain was so physical that it actually hurt to breathe. I knew I deserved it. I knew I had brought all of this onto myself. But knowing that didn't make it easier to live with. Hours passed. Days passed. Anderson never replied. Never wrote back. Never called. He went completely silent, and that silence was louder than any fight we had ever had. My friends tried checking in. Some blamed me. Some tried comforting me. Some avoided me entirely because they didn't know what to say. But none of them mattered. Not really. The only person I wanted to hear from was the one who wanted absolutely nothing to do with me. Eventually, after 2 days of me losing my mind with worry, Anderson's father texted me one simple message. He moved out. Please don't try to find him. That was the moment it finally sank in that he wasn't just angry. He wasn't cooling off. He wasn't waiting. He was gone. He wasn't coming home. I had pushed him so far that he left everything, our house, our life, even his routines, without a backward glance. And I couldn't blame him. I would have left me too. For the next week, my mental state hit rock bottom. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Anderson's face, hurt, disappointed, cold. I saw the life we built collapsing like a house of cards. I saw the future we planned turning to ash in my hands. I stopped eating. Even water tasted bitter in my mouth. I lost weight so fast my clothes felt loose. My hands shook constantly. I cried until I physically couldn't cry anymore. Then came the worst blow of all.
His attorney contacted me.
He was filing for divorce. Reading those words felt like a knife being shoved straight into my heart. I knew it was coming, but seeing it in writing made it real. Final. Irreversible. I broke down so violently that I collapsed in my bathroom. I lay on the cold tiles, sobbing so hard my ribs hurt.
Divorce.
8 years of marriage ending not with a conversation, not with a final fight, but with paperwork delivered through lawyers. I tried calling him. I tried texting him. I tried writing long messages apologizing for everything I'd done. Nothing. He didn't even read them. And that's when something shifted inside me. I realized I wasn't just losing my husband. I had already lost him long before the divorce was filed. I lost him the moment I chose someone else. The moment I let another man touch me. The moment I decided my temporary rush was worth more than the man who'd given me everything. Anderson wasn't punishing me. He was protecting himself. Because he finally saw who I really was. When his family eventually blocked me, I reached out to my own parents. They were devastated, embarrassed, ashamed, disappointed. My mom cried. My dad couldn't even look at me. My sister tried to be supportive, but even she admitted she didn't understand why I did it. I didn't understand it either. Weeks passed in a blur. Anderson stayed away, completely no contact. The divorce moved forward faster than I expected. He didn't want anything from me. He didn't fight over property.
He didn't argue. He just wanted out.
Watching him detach so thoroughly, so quietly, made me realize how deep the hurt went. He didn't yell because yelling meant he still cared. He didn't argue because arguing meant there was something left to fix. He was silent because he was done. When we finally signed the divorce papers, I wasn't even in the same room. Our lawyers did everything. I asked mine if Anderson said anything about me. He told me, he wants this over. That's all. Those words destroyed me in a way I can't fully describe. After the divorce, the loneliness became suffocating. I couldn't sleep,
Couldn't eat.
couldn't focus on work. I quit my job because I couldn't face the shame. I shut myself inside my house because every place reminded me of him. I started losing touch with reality. I'd wake up at 6 a.m., convinced he was getting ready beside me. I'd reach for a side of the bed and feel the cold sheets. I'd hear noises and think it was him coming home. My body gave up. My mind gave up. One afternoon, I collapsed in my kitchen. My sister found me hours later and rushed me to the hospital. Severe dehydration, malnutrition, acute stress. They admitted me immediately, put me on 4 fluids, and transferred me to a rehabilitation facility for mental recovery. When Anderson's mother called him to tell him I collapsed, I hoped he'd come see me.
He didn't.
He told her, "She's not my responsibility anymore." That sentence crushed the last piece of me I had left. I stayed in rehab for weeks. Therapy, medication, daily sessions. They tried to help me understand why I did what I did, why I lost myself, why I destroyed someone who never deserved it. I learned that guilt can eat you alive from the inside. That regret can hollow out your soul. That losing someone because of your own choices is a pain unlike anything else. But even after weeks, one truth stayed the same. I missed Anderson every second. I wrote him letters. Pages and pages. I never sent them. I knew he wouldn't read them. But it was the only way I could breathe. I apologized in every way possible, but nothing I wrote felt enough. I didn't blame him for leaving. I didn't blame him for hating me. I didn't blame him for disappearing. I only blamed myself. Months later, when I finally left the rehab facility, I heard through friends that Anderson had bought farmland in the countryside, that he had left his job, that he was living a quiet life surrounded by animals and open land, that he looked healthier, happier,
At peace.
peace I destroyed in my own life, peace he finally found a way for me. I still text him sometimes. He never replies. Not once. But he doesn't block me either. I don't know if that's mercy or punishment. And here I am today, alone, healing slowly, still carrying the weight of what I did. I ruined the one person who loved me. I broke the man who trusted me with his heart. And now he's gone forever, building a new life where I don't exist. I wish I could undo every moment with James. I wish I could go back and choose differently. I wish I could be the woman Anderson deserved. But wishes don't fix anything. Regret doesn't rewind time. And the only thing I can do now is live with the consequences of the mistakes I made. Mistakes that cost me my marriage, my happiness, my sanity, and the only man who ever truly loved me. That's the end of my story. And there's no happy ending.